Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to try a different technique, a new technique, by putting photos inside of resin coasters. Let's get started. I started my project with round molds. However, you'll see. I started to lay it out, putting the pictures in there, seeing where I would actually place the items inside the resin before I got to pouring the resin. Here are the colors I decided to use, which are gold, blue, and white. Here's the after results, and to be honest, I'm not pleased, like not even a little bit. The coloring is not that great. The flowers you can barely see, and the pictures just don't sit well with those colors and or the shape. I'm not seeing the details that I want to see, and the picture's not blending with those colors. You'll also see, like, do you see how that picture kind of looks there? It's got this weird, I don't know, where it pulled away from the resin. Same thing here, where the resin and the picture did not mesh well together. So it must have been when I placed the picture inside of the resin. But again, here, a lot of the detail that I wanted to show is completely lost. The flowers are, you really can't see them. I'm not really liking the coloring from the background. It's a hot mess in my opinion. So here's just a final look over of my first failure. I decided to go with some square molds, and just like the first set, I'm placing the items inside of the molds just to kind of see what fits, where I'm going to place things before I actually pour that resin. So I want to make sure that I really like how things coordinate, make sure things fit, just kind of arranging everything. And then what I'll do is I'll take a couple of pictures once I'm finally happy with where I've placed everything. That way, when I do go to place these items inside of the resin, I know where to place them. And there's one of those pictures I just snapped. So now we get to actually putting the pictures inside of the resin, and I just want to put resin on top of the photo itself. Now the idea is to encapsulate just the photo. Now, because these are on top or inside of these silicone molds, it's okay if it runs over. I'm not going to be upset or disappointed as long as the resin covers the photo entirely, and I'm looking to not get a lot of air bubbles. That's really important here. I need as little air bubbles as possible. So just covering all the way to the edges, and then I'm going to put this on an extremely flat surface, zap them with some heat, and let them sit and cure. Now that they're completely cured, I'm going to trim away and look at how they've cured. It looks like this first one here, it looks like it did perfectly. It went right to the edge of the picture. I got a little bit of doming there. It's perfect. So I'm very pleased with this one. The second one here, it spilled over, and again, that's fine. These are inside of the mold, so it's gonna peel away very easy. And I'm not really worried about what it looks like on the back. All the edges are covered. I'm pleased, I really am, despite how ugly that looks. And again, this one, look at that doming. It turned out perfect. There's no extra, so that one's great. No trimming, no nothing needed. Very satisfied. I'm just going to trim away the excess because I obviously don't need it, and it's just going to get away in the way of me adding the other items to the mold. And I think I'm pleased with this excess trimmed. Perfect. Set that aside. And let's get to mixing some resin here. I use a 1-to-1 ratio art resin, and I'm just going to mix up enough to start adding my first layer. Now please understand that these coasters are several layers which takes several days. So we have already worked technically on one of the layers by covering the media, which are the photos. And now we're going to work on the first layer, which is going to technically be the top facing part of the coaster. So it's our first layer. And I'm mixing it for 2 minutes, which is my required time for my resin. Every resin is different, so please make sure you check your instructions. So I'm just going to pour a little clear blob there in the middle, and I'm going to just kind of slide that into the resin. I'm checking for air bubbles underneath. I did lift that above my head. What I'm doing is pressing on that picture, trying to get the air bubbles out between the two layers, between the photo and the picture itself. I don't want any bubbles underneath, so I'm sliding that spatula along the back side of the photo. And again, I kept looking underneath the coaster to make sure I had all the bubbles removed. I bought some stickers on sale, which I thought were really cute and appropriate, just to add for extra decor, add for some extra effect. And because of the way these are going to sit and cure within the resin, they're going to kind of have a 3D effect. So I'm just kind of sticking them in there, which is a little tricky. That's why I've got a couple of tools here. You'll see me use my fingers and or those tweezers there, because it is a sticker and I'm putting these stickers into sticky resin. So it is a little bit of tricky business, I'm not going to lie. So because the resin, of course, is not cured, these pieces are going to move around a little bit, so be patient. It's not going to be a perfect art. Again, once I add more color to these coasters with more resin, you're going to see again these move a little bit, and that's okay. I just want to make sure I kind of get them a little bit closer before I start pouring more resin. I'm going to separate these out for different colors. And I definitely want to keep a little bit of a reserve of clear. I don't want to give all to color. Now the color I'm using here is actually a mixative alcohol ink. I put a little dab in that coaster because I just wanted to see how it was going to spread. So I'm just going to add a little bit more color to the cups. A little bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit more white because I don't think that's going to be enough. I really want it to be opaque. I don't want it to be translucent whatsoever. Last time you didn't see where you saw my carpet, I was actually reaching over for some stickers, and now I'm going to reach over for some popsicle sticks. Yes, those are used. I do recycle and reuse as often as I possibly can. And I'm just going to mix that color in a little bit until I don't see any more clear. Making sure to really scrape the sides so that it gets well mixed. Same thing here with the blue. Now I've worked with this blue coloring before, so I kind of knew that I was gonna need a little bit more, a few more drops, and it doesn't change the consistency of my resin too much, but it does have a little bit of an odor to it that's different than you know, paint or anything of that nature. Moving those back into place just a little bit because I want them on that face so that you can actually see them, right? You know, I don't want them off onto that edge there because then you won't be able to read them as well. I'm just layering this on the top, drizzling back and forth. I will say that on some of the other coasters, because of the way they were layered, I did let them cure with just the clear first before I added the color. So again, just kind of play with it I did go by ear, you know, depending on each coaster was a little bit different. So maybe I let one layer clear for 24 hours or, I'm sorry, 12 hours before I added another layer. So play it by ear. It's going to really depend on how well your items are covering inside your coaster and what you're kind of putting inside your coaster, what you want to stay down within the resin, because sometimes items can float, sometimes items can sink. So I'm going back and forth with the different colors again, just to kind of get an effect and cover all of the stickers and cover the picture. So for these particular coasters, he requested to have them reflect his personality, requirements being that his favorite color is blue. He is a Scorpio, and I tried to capture his family because that is his prized possession. So the blue, of course, is because of his favorite color, and then it also kind of has this water effect, a little bit more of like a dreamy effect, which I really loved, and it's got more of a softer marble. I'm going to add a little bit of clear here because clear adds more of a 3D effect, separates the colors in some areas, really adds a lot more dimension. I love adding a little bit more clear. I know we already had a clear on the bottom, but once you're adding your colors, add a little bit more clear because again, it's just going to give you a lot more dimension. The idea here for me right now is to make sure that all the items are fully covered in the resin. I want them completely submerged. I want nothing to be left uncovered. So I'm adding my last final touches here. A little zap of color. And then I'm going to move it over to my extremely flat level surface to cure for 24 hours. Well, here are my final results. I'm very, very pleased with how they turned out. The layering, the clarity, there's no air bubbles that distort the pictures, which I'm very pleased with. I did have failures that did not show the picture well. I will show you that here in a second. Here's the back. That blue and white marbling with the water effect. Again, I'm just really pleased with how these turned out. So you can kind of see where I was talking about how those, you can kind of read them, they're inside of it. There are two little air bubbles in this one here, but I loved where they were placed. They didn't distort the picture, they didn't cover anybody's face, and they kind of added more to that water effect, which I loved. Now that one right here actually was a stinker, and it gave me a hard time, and you will see that that is not the same photo that I originally started with. I ended up lightening the picture, and I did not trim it, so I left it in more of a square shape. It just did not turn out the way I had hoped, so I started over with that one. I'm going to turn those over. Again, you can kind of see the different colors. Everything kind of sits in there. Very pleased, very happy.
Now for my complete failure. See all those air bubbles? Yeah. Picture was too dark, and you could see the different layers upon layers there, but then what happened there? No clue, folks. No clue. Love the coloring on the back. Beautiful. But lots of air bubbles. The picture's too dark. Just a hot mess. So that one's a failure, along with the round ones.
Thank you for watching Dr. Drea's Creations. Please like and subscribe, and check me out on Facebook at Dr. Drea's House of Beauty.